Here we are on a Tuesday for once, June 9th, 2020. Yes, we are still in this motherfucking year, episode 102. Welcome to Bouncing Brains. I'm Sean Hatfield.
And I'm Freddy G. And just a quick reminder, ladies and gentlemen, listening and watching, that this episode has been brought to you by Rockstar. If you ever feel down, like I kind of do right now, I was trying to do that from the Coca-Cola shit. Anyway, might need to bleep that out. I didn't think of it. Drink a Rockstar. Rockstar give us our damn money.
And eat the rich. No, wait, that's the wrong meaning. Different podcast. That's on afterwards.
So what's been up, man? You know what I was...
Hey, I told you I wanted to start this off, man. I want to do this properly.
Well, I was going that way.
Oh, now you're trying to lead up to it. Now, fuck him. Let's jump right into this shit. Freddy, three things right now in the last 2 months. What has brought you joy in this world?
No traffic.
You say you're kid, and I'm going to laugh at you.
No, you said joy. Not,
not frustration. Slight fear and paranoia.
No traffic, man. No traffic. And for the people that have been watching this glorious podcast since we started, y'all should know by now that I still struggle with anxiety and depression every now and then.
I thought you were going to say it with a day job, but...
with that too. But I'm glad I do have it. The day job, not the depression. Anyway, the reason I bring that up is because the second thing that actually I'm happy about that I've been able to go back consistently is the gym. And I've been able to work out regularly, and now I've noticed because of my regular workouts, I'm starting to feel back to normal. And I'm not gonna lie, I had a conversation with a friend. I'm not gonna name drop because they watched this glorious podcast. So I was having a conversation with them, and long story short, they have a prescription antidepressant, and they were explaining to me what it does and so on and so forth, and it sounded beautiful, right? And it sounded exactly like what I needed. So, because I hadn't been working out, whatever, and I wasn't back on the wagon completely yet. Like I feel like I'm back on it now. So I'm not gonna lie, man. Basically, this particular person explained everything. And then they were like, hey, man, I know you struggle with this shit, but I also do struggle with addiction, right? Or struggled or still do. I just don't do any of that shit anymore. Y'all get the point. Anyway, point being is that they told me, try it, and this, take one, and this will, level you out, and you'll be able to sleep and all that shit. And I was like, nah, I don't think it's a good idea, and I explained my reasons like I've done before. And they told me, I understand that, completely understand that, but I'm just saying you could just try it once, just like today, so it can settle you because you're very unsettled now at the moment, and I guarantee you this will help you out. Point and moral to that story is that I still refused to do it, and I didn't do it, and I just waited it out, and that's what I was going to say, that I chose not to try, because to this day, ladies and gentlemen, in case y'all don't know, I don't know if I said it before, I probably did. Ever since I started dealing with anxiety and depression 3.5 years ago or whatever, I've yet to take an antidepressant. I've never taken one. And one of my biggest things is because I come from an addiction. And I have a very addictive personality. And I know, and I have it really clear in my head that if I ever were to relapse, that'll be a downward spiral that I probably will not. The second time, I don't think I'll recover from. And so that's one, if not the biggest, one of the biggest reasons why I choose not to. Because I know, believe me, I've researched this shit. There is antidepressants that, in short, I could call them a happy pill. There is pills that you can take that's the best way that I can describe it to you. You take it and it'll make you feel happy. It'll make you feel mellow. It'll make you feel like there's not a problem in the world. It's just the side effects that I'm afraid of.
Damn.
And my addictive personality.
You went heavy with it, man. I was just gonna say, man, have you seen any fucking movies you enjoyed lately? But nah, man, fuck it. A little moment of self-realization. You know what I mean? A little bit of testing of the will.
Well, I was gonna bring it back to your original question. So traffic, the gym, and the third one that I've really enjoyed.
Oh, you going with the? I completely got distracted.
This
man. I thought
motherfucker just asked me a question. And I'm
no, because I took like a whole nother point on what you just said, man. I thought you meant like the moment of joy was like that kind of like, oh, I can deal with this shit without.
No, my moment of joy, literally, my moment of joy was no traffic, the gym,
to go back to the gym,
and being able to go back to the gym, which in turn has brought me back to like basically people. What the fuck I'm saying is, I'm starting to feel normal again as myself. When I stopped going to the gym, I had no outlet for stress relief. So I started to feel like that was taking a toll on me. So the anxiety kicked up again into high gear. The depression kicked up again. And I was really, especially at night. And I get it. It makes sense. Like at night when you ain't got shit else to do and it's just you in the bed and you're looking at the ceiling. You out and watched all of Netflix, and Netflix is all you got. Then that's it, and then you just can't sleep, and you're tossing and turning, and you get all these crazy ass thoughts. I'm still
fucked up when you get to that point where it's like should I even try to sleep now? Because like I know any sleep I get at this point is going to be less than satisfactory.
And exactly, and there was numerous times where I would literally fall asleep at 5 a.m. and then I have to fucking be up by 6:30 at the latest if I have to go back and work in the office. So I mean, I went days on like 2 hours of sleep, 3 hours of sleep, and you feel miserable. But going back to what you said earlier, that tested people, and I do want to tell y'all this again, before I say it, I'm going to make the same disclaimer I made before. This may not work for you. I'm just saying it works for me. But try it. That's all the fuck I'm saying. But this proved my point that working out hard at the gym on a daily basis really does and really did and does help me with my anxiety and my depression, because as soon as I stopped doing it, I started to fall into the rabbit hole again. As soon as I got back on track and doing it daily, because I've been doing it daily now, and I'm even I was thinking today that I was even thinking of doing 2-a-days. I might start doing 2-a-days again. So
get ready for Angry Freddy.
Pretty much. So that's gotten me back into like my groove, and that has helped me with my anxiety and my depression are out again. So I mean, it helped, and I didn't need a fucking happy pill. But again, if you've been on it for years and it works for you, I don't want you to fucking come off it and commit suicide and then somebody blame it on me because I told you to come off it. So just keep that in mind.
Just a quick little note, something I picked up recently from a conversation I was listening to. I was unaware. I always thought the term dry drunk meant like somebody who still had like the tendency towards alcoholism or towards like substance abuse, but that still abstained from it. Kind of like the whole thing. It's like I'm not a former alcoholic.
You just reminded me of something with that, but go ahead.
But I was I was introduced to a definition of it that kind of makes a little more sense. The distinction between like the whole AA assertion where it's like you're always an alcoholic and the actual term dry drunk. The way it was laid out was basically somebody who is going through all of the same behavioral patterns they would have as an alcoholic. The only thing they've changed is the alcohol or substance abuse or whatever the addiction was. And that, like, yeah, man, like you get, to be honest, I've seen much more people with, like, let's say behavioral addictions or something along that line where they're like, if I just get this out of my life, everything will be perfect. And it's like, nah, man, you got to make more choices. Yeah. I don't know. I found that interesting. It was if I could remember where I heard the discussion, I'd throw it out there.
What a lot of people don't understand is that, and I know I'm gonna fucking open a can of worms here, but people think that the biggest reliance on an addiction to a drug is the drug. And it's not true. But before people crucify me, let me explain. There's chemicals in drugs that tend to make you addicted. That's true. Crack is a very highly addictive drug. Cocaine is a very highly addictive drug. But, to be honest with you, that is like 50%, 40% is that addiction. The other percentage is the behavior that we create when we start using that drug. So what makes your addiction an addiction to you is your habitual, is that a word?
Yeah.
Your habitual behavior towards that drug. You understand what I'm saying? Am I making sense?
Yeah, no, I was listening to another completely different, I think it was a podcast, and a guy who was a former drinker, and he was talking about walking into I think it was a comic, actually. Anyway, they were talking about having to go into a bar to, we got to kill an hour or so, and he was in there with another colleague, and it was like, basically he hadn't, didn't go to bars anymore because he doesn't drink, but he walked in and like the smell, the fucking, the look, just the entire, essence of this bar. He was like, he could already feel himself like tasted, like you talked about tasting Jack Daniels.
That's exactly where I was going.
And I think I've talked about like my own ritualization behind drug use was.
So that's what I was gonna say. It's the habit that you create of using that substance, and this is actually coming like from like the fucking, cause I actually went to drug classes and shit, and I had like they're not a therapist, but they're like a doctor and shit that you talk to when you try to kick this shit.
I think they're technically counselors.
Yeah. But don't tell them that because they get offended. So they're doctors. Let's give them the benefit of the doubt. So you talk to them and shit. So I got this from them. So basically, it's a habitual behavior that you create when you start using these substances that make your habit harder to kick. If y'all don't understand that point, I don't know how to break it down simpler. But the point that I'm trying to get to is to like what you were saying. I was with a friend 2 weeks ago. So we were at a barbecue, and he was barbecuing, whatever, and everybody was drinking. Everybody was drinking beer except for me, and I was watching everybody drink, and like everything cool. Like I could see the beer. The beer's cold. The beer's there. And before I continue with this, what I'm trying to prove here is I want y'all to understand what professionals tell you, what they mean when they tell you that you're always going to be an addict. Like you're always going to be an alcoholic. It's not a bad thing. It's just, it's like something that once you get it, you can't get rid of it. But it doesn't mean that it has to run your life and that you have to be that way for the rest of your life. It's something that you're gonna like live with from now on. So my point is, everybody was drinking and everything, and again, I've been sober for 9 years, and like everything was cool when everybody was drinking beer, right? But then my friend, he brought out a bottle of a bourbon Maker's Mark, right? If y'all ain't never tried that shit, I mean, if you drink, if you're a recovering alcoholic like me, don't pay attention. If y'all ain't never had that shit on ice, y'all need to try it. Make sure that when you start drinking it, though, make sure you got nothing else to do. Because if you do, that shit gonna go out the window. Anyway, so he brought out a bottle, right? Cracked it open. And he put glass. There's a reason as to why I'm explaining it like this. So I'm sitting here, he's sitting there, the table's right here. Put a glass, put ice in it. I saw him open the bottle, and he began to pour it into the glass. Like a fucking commercial. Now, he wasn't doing it on purpose. This is just what he was doing, right? But he began to pour it into the glass. He grabs the glass, he smells it, and he took a sip. Let's pause the fucking story right there. He took a sip. This is my point. And I know a lot of you are not going to understand because you're probably not an alcoholic and you're not going to understand unless you were the caliber of alcoholic that I was. When he took that sip, because he took the sip and he was like, and he put the cup down. When he did that and I saw him and I saw the cup, I could literally taste the aftertaste of the bourbon in the cup in my mouth. You might want to fucking think that I'm crazy, but the point that I'm trying to make is that that's how powerful your mind is over you if you allow it. Like, I shit you not. Like I said, I know there's people that are not going to understand. They're going to say that I'm full of shit. But I could literally taste the aftertaste of the bourbon in that cup. And I could taste it in the back of my throat. And I saw it. And I had to... I hadn't had to do that in a while. I literally... It sounds weird, but I literally had to get up off the chair and like walk it off. Like I had to walk away from it for a little bit. I went, like if I was playing with my phone, I went to the other side, like to the other side of the porch or whatever. And because it was that strong, you know what I mean? And then I literally stood there like staring at a tree, at a random tree. And I was like, you can do this, you're fine. I was telling myself, I was like, you can do this, you're fine. 9 years, come a long way, you're good. But, like, it's just, it brought back all those memories and all of that, and to the point where I could taste it. And that's my point. When a professional counselor, doctor, tells you that you're always going to be an addict, or that you're always going to be an alcoholic, that's what they mean. That these episodes that you go through, unfortunately, you're going to experience for the rest of your life. But it's up to you to want to remain away from it and abstain. But this has also taught me that I completely understand why people relapse. Had I been any other person, I probably would have had a drink right there.
Well, all right, look, man. Part of what I was saying is as far as the let's say broader understanding that I kind of got from the more drawn out explanation to dry drunk was basically a reinforcement of the idea that I'm a big proponent of, which is like, to be honest, what I always took the whole, you'll always be an addict, of this or that, the other, like what I always took away from that was like, whatever actions you take, it's not necessarily the act of indulging or relapsing or doing, whatever it is that is very obviously getting you in trouble. You know what I mean? Like, if you're getting caught, speeding on a regular basis, Like, sure, maybe you like driving fast, but maybe it's also because you're kind of a procrastinator and you fucking late every time. And, you know, maybe you've got like some fucking anger issues or like some issue
But
with like,
that's a good point that you bring up, man. But because you know what? Now that I think about it, on the driving fast part, I'm like that. I've noticed, and I've tried to stop.
you kind of set yourself up scenarios where it's just like, I gotta drive, I gotta speed.
Yeah, well, see, that's the thing. Like with me, that's what I was gonna say. Like I drive fast everywhere, but even if I'm not running late, because like for example, like to work, when I gotta go to work at the physical location, I live kind of far away from it, but I always gauge my time so that I have at least a 30-minute leeway, so that I get there 30 minutes early. Right? Always. It's very rare that I'm like literally running late. I say all the time, it's like I'm running late. What I'm really saying is I'm running late to get to the 30-minute gap. I'm running behind on the 30-minute gap, but I'm not late.
Right.
So, but even with that 30-minute gap, I'm still fucking speeding. I'm going 80, 85 on the fucking, on the expressway. And there's like nobody in front of me. There's nobody in front of me. There's nobody behind me because this is like early in the morning or whatever.
Right, right.
But I've noticed, and there's another thing. I've noticed that I cannot sustain a speed, what I in my head consider a slow speed, for a long period of time. An example. The speed on most expressways, the normal one, is 65. I'll give you an example.
I would say the average in the valley is about 70, but.
Well, I mean, I'm saying like going by the book on the sign, it's a 65, right? So what I'm saying is, it's just an example. I can't go 65 miles an hour for an hour. I can't. I've tried and I can't. So I end up going 70, 75, 80. Where I stay is between 75 and 80 is where I stay.
Let me ask you this, man, because this is the first thought that comes to my mind when you're saying this you use cruise control on a regular basis?
Well, mine's broken, but if it's available,
okay.
I use it.
Now that right there, because I found myself driving a vehicle a couple years back after, I mean, I don't know, probably a decade straight of using vehicles where it was, you know, just cruise control. Because I mean, for a long while, man, I'm right there with you about 85, 90 miles an hour, wherever the fuck you're going.
But just food for thought. Even if I had cruise control, I can't cruise control it on 65.
Yeah, you can.
No, that's the part that you don't understand.
Oh no, okay, that's what you're saying is it would actually bother you to set the cruise control at 65.
That's what I'm saying. And when I said I can't drive for an extended period of time at 65, I didn't mean I physically can't. Because I can if I want to. I get frustrated with even if there's nobody in front of me. You know what I'm saying? Like I cannot drive at like 65 for like an hour. Because even if I cruise control it, I can't. Because I feel in my head, I feel that I'm moving too fucking slow. You know what I'm saying? And now, before, again, people fucking talk shit about me, I understand that 95% of what I just said is wrong. And I understand that I'm technically breaking the law. I get it. But I'm just giving you an example. Plus, it's not breaking the law until they catch you doing it. So, voila, motherfucker. I'm not driving right now.
All of this is improvisational comedy. No statements should be taken as literal fact. We are not reliable witnesses, questionable at best.
Items and objects are further away than they appear.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, but
I asked about the cruise control because I think that's how I ended up kind of curbing my own behavior and I get you about the frustration, man. Like usually if I'm doing like, well, shit, man, we've been on road trips, man, or at least a couple hours, at a time.
Right. And
yeah, man, like I could probably do 65 for an hour if somebody was like, like that little stretch between, the highway and South Padre Island.
Yeah.
Like usually, once I'm on that, at that point, the liquor's already kicking in. So, I want to take it careful. So I'll cruise control it through.
Sean said that. I didn't say that. Sean said it.
The liquor said it. Yeah, man. Okay. By the way, you still have 1 point of joy should you choose to express it.
Yeah, and the third one is because I was going with it somewhere. I had tied them all together. Fuck.
Traffic, Jim.
Traffic. Oh, I remember. And this is a more serious one. I'm not trying to be funny. I'm being for real. And I'm also saying it because I hope that I'm really praying and hoping that I'm not the only one. How can I say it without sounding corny?
Fuck, are your co-host on this podcast? Corn that shit up. I'll cut it out if I don't like it.
I don't want to use that word. Like this whole time, I've actually, and not like I haven't done it before, but I guess I just have a lot more time to do it. Just kind of sit with your thoughts, as long as you're not suicidal, and you're not like manic depressant. No, I'm not talking shit to people that are. I'm just saying if you're not, because if you are, please don't sit on your thoughts. Please don't. Find something to do. And I'm being serious. But
you should find a happier podcast.
Yeah.
We're glad you're here, but are you?
No, but it's helped me to put a lot. My biggest point to that is this time that I've been alone, because I spent a lot, even before the pandemic, I spent a lot of time alone. I don't fuck around with people. I don't go out. I don't do shit. I'm always in my own thoughts most of the time. Hence I do comedy. That's what the fuck I do. I mean, shit. We're lost in thought most of the time. We're lost, period. Anyway.
Sometimes just get up on stage, pretend like none of you motherfuckers are even here.
Yeah, and most of the time, most of y'all aren't there anyway, so.
I really appreciate when you stay silent so I can just really dig in on it.
No, but, so, like, I've been able to basically, help me out with the word. I can't pronounce it. Compartmentalize. Compartmentalize.
What do you mean by
my thoughts? It's like
organize your thoughts.
No, compartment. It's a word, but I don't think I'm pronouncing it right.
Well, all right. Compartmentalization usually is shit. All right.
Like you put shit in a filing cabinet. You know what I'm saying?
Well, that's what I would say. Organize if that's where you're going, because a lot of times compartmentalization gets used as in the negative sense of like people are going like, I'll pay attention. Like I can't pay attention to that now. I'll deal with it later. Type of shit. That's where that.
Well, that's but see, that's what I'm trying to say. Okay. Like what I'm saying is
prioritize.
No,
maybe?
that's
no.
not.
Okay.
No, what I'm saying is I've been able to get all my thoughts that were scattered all over my brain and figure out, okay, these go over here, and I'll deal with that later. And then these go here, and they should have always been here. So the point that I'm trying to make with that, it has helped me to be more. I don't want to throw people off like I'm crazy or some shit. But it helps me also to...
Do you listen to these podcasts, Freddy?
Control, to control emotion. So like, for example, so the benefit of that, when somebody gets pissed off at me, I am no longer quick to fire back. You know what I'm saying? Like I listen, and it's like I try to figure out, okay, why is this person? I understand we disagree. Apparently, that's why we're arguing. I understand we disagree, but I'm not gonna let anger jump in front of me. That's fine if they're angry. That's shit that they gotta deal with, and they gotta learn to control. But as far as with me, I'm not gonna let anger drive my statements. And I figured out how to do that by actually sitting and thinking. It's like, okay, why do I react this way? Why? And before, I didn't really have the time to I mean, it sounds kind of fucked up and crazy, but I didn't have the time to like, okay, why do I think this way? Why do I feel this way? I didn't have time to think about my feelings, as fucked up as it may sound. So, and the reason being is because a lot of the time I was so on my toes and quick and to be in my head to be like, okay, I gotta write. So every day I would put myself in writing mode. So to get my thoughts and scattered and work them out, it was to write. You know what I'm saying? But it was never to figure out like my emotions or why I feel this way or why do I react like this way and shit like that. You know what I mean?
I think this kind of goes back to a conversation we had a long time back. If I recall correctly, I think it was prompted by the Australian comic that did Nanette? Hannah Gatsby. She was
like, we had an Australian comic? She's not Australian?
No, we did have an Australian rocker that was hanging out in the local scene.
Yeah, I remember him. He's pretty cool.
Yeah. Get some tasty waves.
What was his fucking name?
It escapes me completely. I'm trying to remember the name of the band even. Wax Pink or something like that.
Because he almost stole my date.
Dirty motherfucker.
Well, I mean, he didn't know, though. He didn't do it on purpose.
Bastard.
Yeah, no. He, for real. Okay, let me rephrase that. I was with a girl there at that place. We were hanging out. And he's Australian, so he has an accent. So, and she completely, like, fell in love with it. And, you know, towards the end of the night, not towards the end of the night, but, like, later on in the night, like, she kept bringing him up. And I told her, I was like, well, I mean, you want me to go get him? I mean, sound more interested in him than you. Now, keep in mind, fucking people, this was actually my friend, a girl that I've known for years. So I knew she wasn't going to walk away and shit like that. She was just busting my balls, basically. And I was busting her chops back. You know what I'm saying? So that's all it was. But all I'm saying is when in our conversation, she kept bringing it up and like just to fuck with me, she would tell me, like she kept saying, well, maybe if you had an accent like that, it would be different, you know? And I was like, motherfucker. So yeah, that's why I remember him, though. That dude's cool, though. Like, no hard feelings or anything.
Now I'm just trying to picture Aussie Freddy.
Yeah, no. I tried. It was a horrible experience.
You know, they say, like, in the infinite universe, they're like infinite, very, well, not just that, but there's also infinite variations on the possibilities of your existence. And, I think that would be a unique case.
Yeah, very, very fucking unique case. So yeah, man, those are the three, look, anyway, my thoughts, and I encourage anybody that deals with like issues like your mental health and you're trying to stay mentally healthy. Again, if you don't have serious issues to where like you're manic depressive and you're suicidal, but you just need to sit and, like, there's nothing wrong to like sit and think and figure shit out for yourself. You know what I'm saying? So,
by the way, the point I was trying to kind of get at, man, was you brought up the writing and whatnot, and I think the place we'd gotten to in the last conversation was kind of the idea of like you can't, like the writing can be helpful along with like a lot of other things to kind of help you organize thoughts and whatnot. But if you're trying to like, and the reason I brought up the Hannah Gatsby thing is I remember listening to an interview with her where she talked about the idea that she had been basically taking all the issues that she had in her life and just writing jokes out of it. You know what I mean? Which is, I mean, great. The whole broken toy concept of like comedians are basically just, you know, damaged people who have figured out how to, like, our defense mechanism is, you know, marketable. You know, yeah. It's like, hey, look, if you poke him with the pointy stick, he says some funny shit. And then, but yeah, the idea that you can't like sit down and try to use your art, it's like, I'll work it out through my art. No, you won't. You'll just take your art and express it in a way. It's like, now you've just taken all your problems and expressed it in a way where people can go, oh yeah, I could see where that'd be a problem. But that doesn't help you in any way.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, they understand me more. Yeah. But do you understand you? Because you didn't,
Yeah, exactly.
I still have been trying to, I've been still banging around that whole idea that art is a question. Like any form of
That's the same reason why I do, and again, I'm not shitting on it. If it worked for you, it's great.
Right.
But that's why I don't understand the benefit of me paying somebody else so that I could talk to them. Because I didn't find the benefit of like me talking to that other person. Now, I do understand the concept of like how it should work. I'm just saying it didn't work. It didn't work for me. You know what I'm saying?
All right. Let me do a complete 180 here and go and play devil's advocate on the case that art can be therapeutic, or more maybe expound on the idea that art can be therapeutic in the sense that a lot of times the act of the creation is basically questioning, like, what if I do this? Will this work? You know what I mean? Like, does this make sense in the, you know what I mean? Will this color look good next to this line? You know what I mean? Yeah. Or if you're writing this word, whatever it is, it's constant questioning, right? So once you have it up and done, you know what I mean? You've kind of like just thrown it up on the fucking page. And when I say throw up, I mean literal fucking just, that's the creative art. Like anytime you've heard a cat at like 3:00 in the morning in some hallway, just, it's like, that is creation. It's not beautiful, but it is creation. By the way, if you ever want to be fascinated, wait until one of them dries out and cut it in half. The fur balls, just blow your fucking mind. The shit they swallow, man. Like, it's just, anyway, I'm getting off topic. What I'm saying is,
shit, I just got a mental picture. You kind of brain.
It's just you don't like even the idea of it, right? Like, just what would a hairball, like, how does it, because you've seen one, right? It looks like somebody just took it and like rolled it up and like ugh. It's almost like owl pellets, you know what I mean? They cough up the bones and shit. Yeah. And cats don't cough up bones because their stomach acid is so strong it dissolves them. Fascinating fact. Your furry friends are murderers.
Can you feed people to cats?
Slowly.
They won't eat them.
Your cats, like, all right, sometimes people die, nobody finds them, and their pets end up eating them. The cats are more likely to eat you first. Because like a dog isn't a dedicated carnivore. You know what I mean? It's majority carnivore, but it can go without meat. So like it would probably, and plus they're much more like sentimental.
I read somewhere.
They do have some sense of honor for the dead type of thing.
I don't remember where, but I read somewhere that a dozen rats can eat a whole body in like 72 hours. A dozen rats.
Possibly, and they can break down bone, man.
Yeah. I mean, they chew through fucking lead pipe, so
yeah. I thought somebody was joking the first time they said they found a rat hole in concrete. I was like, what?
Shit, I didn't know that.
Huh? It was probably like, it was just like a thin wall, but still, what do we like? How,
I know they chew through lead pipe because I've experienced that shit. They burst one of my water, not at this house, but at another house. They burst one of the hot water pipes, and the thing that sucks. Well, I mean, it doesn't suck, but like the thing is that I heard it. Like when it burst, I heard it, so I thought it was like, and I knew. I was like, oh shit, that's water. So then I went looking, but I never thought that it would have been a rat, right? So then the plumber came and it was like, oh, your hot water pipe burst or whatever. And I was like, what happened, bro? Like, was it too old? Or what? He's like, no, a rat chewed through it. I was like, first of all, how do you know that? And second of all, what type of mutant fucking rat am I dealing with, you know? Because I didn't know, I didn't know that rats could chew through. This was a long time ago. This was a while back. I still didn't know that rats could chew through lead pipe and shit.
They're vicious, man.
Yeah.
And it also depends on the type of rat too, man. I mean, you know what I mean? There's,
So,
anyway, just kind of finish out the thought. You were saying, like, you know, why the not being able to kind of like the idea of paying somebody else to, like, you know, walk you through your own fucking thoughts. As far as the art aspect, I think once you have something kind of out there, like you've filtered it, whatever that expression is has been filtered through whatever fucked up shit's going on in your head, or whatever sunshiny, glorious shit's going on in your head. Regardless, it's being filtered through all of that. And once it's out there, you kind of go, oh, okay. You know what I mean? Like, and in that sense, you can...
But I did that, though. See what I'm saying?
But that's, as far as why somebody might pay someone else to walk them through their own thoughts, if they don't have some practice where they're habitually, you know, laying their shit out on the table and going through it. Like, the way people phrase things sometimes, like, a quick example isn't coming to mind, but, you know...
by the way, a therapist did call me a sex addict. And I didn't know how to feel. And this is true shit. I'm not trying to be funny. I think we talked about this. I didn't know how to feel about it. But then, like, the more...
She offered to help you out with that problem?
No, fuck no. She was like 90 years old. I'm into mature women, but god damn. You know what I mean? No, but, yeah, like, she told me, right? I had this conversation with her, and she came to the conclusion, and I'll never forget what she said. She said, one of your biggest problems is that 90% of the decisions that you've made in your life and that you continue to make are sex driven. And I was like, when she told me that, I was like, what the fuck does that mean? You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not trying to fuck everybody, you know what I mean? So I didn't understand that. But then again, to bring it back to my initial point, I sat back in my own thought by myself, and I am man enough to admit that she was right. And what that means, not now I understand what that means. What that means is that not necessarily through every decision you literally try to fuck somebody. In my case, because I'm attracted to women, like a woman or whatever. Mm-hmm. But she was right in the way that every decision that I've made was with the thought in the back of my head somewhere that decision was going to lead to another one, that was going to lead to another one, that was going to get me sex eventually. Think about it. You know what I'm saying?
No, I get you completely.
You know what I'm saying? Let me, like, for the people listening and watching, I'll give you an example. Let's say you don't have a car, right? A vehicle, just a vehicle to get you from point A to point B, right? And you walk everywhere. Why do you want to have a nice car? You want to go to work, right? And you want to do your essential shit. But eventually, at some point, you want to pick up a girl, right? Yeah. And I don't think you want to go on a date with a chick and walk beside her every fucking where. Hey, baby, we're going to walk over. You know, and you know that most women today, I'm not going to say all of them, most women today, you know, they like to even just I won't be a complete asshole. They even like just a decent car at least. So you're going to need a car to get you, so you can get to the point so you can ask a girl, like, hey, can we go eat? So now fast forward. So now you go into dinner and with this girl in your car and you're going to dinner. I don't give a shit if it's 1 date, 5 dates, 6 dates, but you're going through these dinners. At some point, not unless that bitch is your sister. Well, I mean, if you don't live in Alabama somewhere, you're gonna try to fuck this broad.
Freddy, that's biased. Mississippi also exists.
I knew you were gonna say that.
And shout out to Oklahoma while we're at it.
So I thought about Oklahoma too. So
Sure, it's flat here, but my sister ain't.
So not unless she's, related to you or whatever, at some point you're gonna try to get into this girl's pants or whatever. Same thing with a job. Some people like some women like men that have stable jobs, that have a good job, that have a future because that gives them a sense of security, so on and so forth. So you want a job to be able to provide. Now, I'm not saying you're trying to marry this broad. Maybe you are, but let's just say that you're not. But you want a job again so that you can take this girl out, and eventually that's going to lead you to that. You know what I'm saying?
Okay, by the way, I think you're slow rolling this a little bit too much, man, because while I agree with everything you say, I think the strong distinction has to be between that being like the idea of setting yourself up so that you can have.
Oh, fuck. That was my fault.
I think you just yanked on the cable. Yeah. Just a second, folks. You can hear us, but we can't hear ourselves.
My bad.
Little quick tip for anybody looking at the H4n Pro, Zoom H4n Pro. I think that's the name of it. Anyway, the headphone jack comes loose after a while because it's not actually fastened to anything. It's directly soldered onto the board, or at least that's the explanation I've gotten. So anytime you hear us saying fuck and then not talking into the mic for a while and then going check, 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 you know exactly what it is. So, hint, hint, we'll have the Patreon page up soon and you can support us, or Cash App, or fuck it, man, drop some cash in fucking Freddy's mailbox. I don't give a shit. Just, we're hoping here. We were talking about something. What was the... Oh, yeah. Like, you want to set yourself up, or at least I think you get to a point where, like, the idea of healthy, productive adulthood is having some money so you can do things, having, a fucking home that you can build upon and have value in, and also having, like, a healthy and productive sex life where...
No. That's exactly what I was pointing out.
What?
What she was telling me, that's a great example. All that shit that you said about so you can have a house and so on and productive.
Right, but I'm saying all the stuff you were saying about, like, you want to have the car so you can get the girl, blah, blah, blah. I think the break point is when that becomes the pure focus, when you're actually choosing, like, for example, like, rather than, all right, great example, I've made this choice, basically, like, getting, like, an apartment in a certain location because, like, well, like your motivations are actually counterproductive in a way. I'm not going to go into too many details on that. That's a long story. Substance abuse and easy women. Anyway, point being, I get what you mean about, like, that's when that becomes the soul. When you can look back on your actions and go, oh, like, my pure motivation was this or that.
Yeah.
When it to the detriment of other things in your life.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm just saying, like, I think a lot of people go the other direction. They try to live like monks once it dawns on them that they are being detrimental to themselves through their behavior. They go, oh, well, I'll just stop doing that. And it's like, no, you were having fun. Just fix your shit. Like, don't make that the sole purpose for your existence. I think
exactly. You have to find, and I'm not going to say perfect, but you have to find the best balance that works for you.
I've gone on this kick lately of kind of looking back at, like, constitutional stuff and all that, mainly because of some of the bullshit that's going on with our government right now, but let's not get into that. We're talking about joy. But I realized I really like the phrase, in order to create a more perfect. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it kind of goes back to the Platonic ideal thing of, like, perfection is out there and we're always trying to get to it, but you can always be more. You know what I mean? There's not, You're not going to achieve the goal and then be like, what's next? It's like, nah, motherfucker, you just new variation on the old theme.
But you also have to find the balance of like, at some point, you have to be, I'm not saying you have to conform, but I'm saying you have to find, okay, like, this is the best way I can think of it. You attain whatever you set out, like your goals. Like, just short example. I want to have a career. I want to have this. I want to have a kid. I want to have a family. And then, like, I'll be good. So what I'm saying is, you have to reach a point or a goal to where, like, you're content with what you have. And you know, be good. Now, yes, being ambitious and to want to try to achieve more. But, for example, if you don't achieve more, like, are you going to be okay? Are you going to be content with what you already have? Because I also think that if you flip it around, and if you're ambitious all the time, I may be wrong. Maybe just because I'm different. But I really think that for people that are like very ambitious and like live on ambition and every day wake up to like more and more and more and more, and it's never enough, I really do think that those people, not only are they not happy, but I think that they don't get to enjoy the shit that they already have. And then time flies by them, and then they die, and they never really enjoyed like what they did accumulate. So that's why I tell people, ambition is good. Again, going back to what I said earlier, as long as you can figure out like the balance. And going further back to the point that we were talking about earlier, same thing with the therapist that was telling me, like, all your decisions that you've made are sex driven. So going back to what you said, figure out a way to where you find the balance, but also know that it's just not about that. Like, there's a bigger cause to the reason that you're here. And I really think that you start to figure that out once you start living outside of yourself and outside of your needs. Once you figure out that, like, okay, I'm taken care of, like, I'm eating, I have a roof over my head, I have clothes on my back, like, how can I better somebody else, or how can I better, somebody else's situation? And this was just recently, this was maybe just up to 2 years ago, I really started to understand what it really meant to be happy and content, trying to figure out how you can benefit somebody else, how you as a person and as a human being can benefit somebody else. You know what I'm saying? Because I think that for a large amount of our lives, we spend our lives trying to figure out, how do I make me happy? You know what I'm saying? Which, I'm not saying that that's not important. You should always focus on your self happiness and self worth. But I don't think it's a good idea to spend your whole life on it, because
this isn't a firm like belief or anything, and throw this at you as quickly as possible. We got about maybe 5 more minutes in the hour. But I am kind of kicking around the idea that we may have, and I know this might sound weird considering the condition we're in, but I think it's a counterintuitive thing. We have this idea of like charity, or being like charitable and like kind of like beneficial to your community. Like, the first thought that we kind of introduce in that conversation is, those people need help. You know what I'm saying? Like, when I think about like when you're a kid and like you first kind of see, like, run into, like, you know what I mean? Like, even if you yourself are living in a condition that might be stressful, or, you know, whatever it is, like the first time you see somebody who's even in worse of a condition than you are, whether, you know, whatever that is, even if it's just like you go over and the first time you see somebody get the shit beat out of them with a belt because, you know, they spilled a drink or something, you go, holy fuck.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's, and the idea, the conversation we have around that with little kids, it's like, oh, well, you know, those people have problems. And it's like, okay, but instead of starting from the idea of like, those people need help, I think we would be, think about how selfish kids are, like little kids, right?
Yeah.
You spend like the first 7 years trying to teach them like, hey, not everything's about you, right?
Yeah.
Maybe we're making a mistake, man. Maybe like, I think about like the airplane thing about like, you know, if the oxygen masks drop, you got to put yours on first before you help anybody else. We're not saying don't help anybody else, but take care of your own shit.
Well,
first,
I mean that's what I said to begin with. Like I said, you have to make sure that you're at least okay before you can reach and make sure somebody else is okay. So that goes on to what I also said. I think the biggest break is where people, because I've done this myself, like we spend our whole lives trying to make ourselves happy and make ourselves okay, and never focusing on how can I be of benefit to somebody else, which that's what I'm saying that I've discovered. Like, I don't think it's a good practice or a good thing to spend your whole life, like just thinking about like you know.
I agree completely, man. But I'm saying like you can't. I don't think you can get to the fullest understanding of that without understanding the role your own self-motivation plays in that.
That's what I'm saying.
Well, it's like I was saying before. There are a lot of people that want to go all monk on this shit and go, oh, I will dedicate myself to the betterment of man. It's like, yeah, motherfucker, you still got to, you know, wash your own dishes and fucking, you know, maintain your own fucking home. You know what I'm saying? All right, I think of it like this, man, because this is actually working on some material around this, but the idea of, and it's been pointed out before, man, but like as everybody after like Generation Z, when the whole like American dream thing just kind of fell apart, you know what I mean?
I never thought it was together.
We did have growing prosperity up until about the mid '60s, and then that's when the economy went to shit. The whole, you know, tying it to the petrodollar, fiat currency, taking us off the gold standard. You know, we basically produced a system where all of our productivity is fiat on paper. Like it's not, and it's not that we're not producing goods. It's just that there's no value being added back into the system because of those goods. There's no inherent value to those goods being around. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Whereas like if you say like back in the day when not everybody had a car, like if you have enough money to buy a new car, you know, every couple of years, well, that used car that you were driving around now somebody can buy that car for cheaper, and now more people have access to vehicles, yada, yada. That's not a perfect example, but that's what I'm saying, right?
Yeah.
But like you get like to Gen Z, or not Gen Z, what, Generation X, and basically they came out of the gate going, you know, you got to work hard and do all this shit, and at some point, you know, even if you grow up, you know, going, yeah, I'm, you know, get good grades and fucking, you know, go out and, you know, I'll help old people across the street and all this shit, and the idea that underlines that is, if I help the community will help me. And unfortunately, the community no longer has the resources to help you or me. You do have to be kind of self-reliant to a certain extent.
Yeah.
Because we've fucked ourselves over. And I'm just saying, I think the trend that we do see of people going like, fuck it, I'm just going to focus on myself. I don't think that's the inherent selfishness of the human spirit.
Yeah.
I think that was basically the contract was voided. You know what I mean? Like you look around and you go, ain't nobody fucking help. Like I'm helping a lot of people. Ain't nobody helping. Man, fuck you people. You know what I mean? Yeah. And even if that's not a conscious decision, by the way, I think that it is very possible just at some point to just get disillusioned and disillusioned with the fact that you've been disenfranchised. You know what I mean? You no longer have like a a working relationship with the community at large. So there's no foundation of like, it's like if it's a community in name only, you know what I mean? If there's not actually some underlying foundation of connection between the people within it, then, you know, you got to rebuild the wheel every time you want. I mean, think about it. You know, you hear this bullshit about like, you know, how can we help this community? It's like, I don't know. Well, it's like, yeah, because there's no, like if there was a community, if you go, okay, there's a community council. Okay, we go talk to the community council and, you know.
And in a lot of places there is. We just there's.
But think about how many people don't. I mean,
know.
How many times do you watch? You live here, and you've lived here in McAllen a long time, right?
Yeah.
How often do you watch the the city council meetings?
I didn't even know that's where I was going. I didn't even until I started working and doing what I do. I found out that there's actually weekly meetings that are held with like the people, like the actual people of the community. I didn't know that until I started working in the industry that I work for.
How many times have you been on Facebook and seen some, like, don't get me wrong, every time somebody has some pet project, you see like, hey, show up at the city council meeting and support whatever. And but how many people are just going like, hey, by the way, the city council meeting's tonight, you know what I mean? Come by, blah, blah, blah. We're going to be talking about this, that, and the other. There's no active engagement. And granted, social media is not the best place to be getting that. But I feel like if we had that as an underlying, I don't know, idea or ideal even, you know what I mean? If that's what we were trying to achieve was community engagement, that's exactly what social media would be. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, all right, memes are great, man. But like if, you know, somebody posts up, I mean, it's like with the comedy and shit, you know, you see somebody's doing a show, you know, down somewhere, you go, oh, fuck it. You share it. Cause it's like, there is a thing that is actually happening that people in the area can go participate with. You know what I mean? Like, fuck, we can get into that in the second hour, but we're at the first hour. Anything you want to cap off on that thought?
No, we will be right back. But before we go, episode's been brought to you by Rockstar. Remember, you want to feel like a rock star? Get yourself a Rockstar. Rockstar send us her goddamn money.
We've got a chihuahua hidden under the table and the dog dies if we don't get the check. Later, y'all. And we're back for the second hour.
So, before I get into that, what are your 3 things that you've enjoyed?
Well, I think right off the bat, I think the thing that just, not necessarily in any ranked order, but off the top of my head, I've seen some people, comics actually, who are doing some stuff that I don't think would have been possible before all this nonsense, before the lockdown and the kind of necessitation of like, shit, I got to do something new because I can't, you know, go and do what I usually.
Sorry about that.
Yeah. Just trying to ignore it, Freddy.
Oh shit, they saw it, they heard it.
Don't you try to guilt trip me into a bless you, motherfucker. But yeah, I've seen some people doing some very creative things and getting feedback, support, and in at least a couple cases, monetary gain. So I'm always glad to see that, especially when it's something that it's not just. I mean, don't get me wrong. When we've talked to a couple comics that you know, have gotten to that point where it's like, oh shit, now I'm getting paid more to do what I was already doing. But like when you see someone that was at a wall on something and they go, oh, I'd just start doing this other thing. And all of a sudden, you know, you get in this, if not success necessarily in the traditional sense, at least success in terms of it being productive and profitable and, you know, something that, you know, seems to bring them joy. You know what I'm saying? So I'd say that's the first thing off the bat. Second thing of joy. I have optimism in the chaos. I see a lot of conversations going on. It's kind of a theme, I guess, go along with the first one. I see some conversations going on right now that are necessary. I don't necessarily think I am not like 100% positive that any of them will be resolved, but I think we may at least kind of further a few of the discussions about, like, going back to what we were talking about at the end of the last hour about kind of how do we identify the breakdowns in the communal network? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, where are we not having the discussions? And about a whole host of things, by the way. If you're listening to this and you're like, I know what he's talking about, I bet you don't. I mean, your shit's probably on the list, but a whole bunch of shit going on right now that you're just going like, it's, you know, cue the Michael Jackson theme, just fucking in popcorn in the movie theater. Just, it's a thriller. And I'm sure just by humming that, we've gotten thrown off of YouTube. But point being, there are interesting things going on. You know what I mean? And there was, on a bit of a tangent, you know about the Doomsday Clock? I forget the name of the organization, but they have basically they tried to represent the threat of all out like nuclear war in the idea of a clock. And I think they started off, we were 5 minutes to midnight. So like on their threat assessment scale. But this was back in like 1972.
We gotta deal with the flat earthers, the space is fake, and all these fuckers too.
These guys had a lot of credence for a long time, except now they've put us, I believe, at like, we're less than a minute till midnight. We've got like seconds to go type of thing.
On that point, on that tangent, like, at this point, man, anybody that's still in that fantasy land that this is going to go on forever and then eventually people are going to die, other people are going to be born. Like, if you're still on that, I'm sorry to burst your bubble yet again, but everything that has a beginning has an end. So this shit will end. Like, I really do, and you don't have to agree with me. Like,
I just asked you to define this shit.
Everything, like this earth, life, all of this shit is gonna end. And I strongly believe that it has an end point. And what I'm trying to point out is like that end point is inevitable. Now, the other thing that I'm trying to, point out to people is that if you're afraid of that, you got a serious problem. Be afraid because fear is a natural instinct. I'm afraid too. For example, I'm afraid for my daughter. Not so much for me, but for my kid, because my kid has to live in this world too. And like every other parent, I'm pretty sure you don't want your kids to suffer, so on and so forth. But if you've lived long enough in this world to really figure out even the slightest light of reasoning within yourself, you know that this has an end, and we can only enjoy it or not enjoy it until it ends. Now, how it's gonna end, I'm not gonna get into that because that's up for many different fucking interpretations. But the whole point that I'm trying to make to this shit is the same thing that we've preached up about in many different episodes. Just take care of yourself. Don't be an asshole. And be nice to people. At least just a little bit. And at least you can say that, hey, while I was here and we were all alive, I wasn't that much of an asshole, and I did to try to contribute something positive to the way of living or whatever. But to go back to that point, man, like, I wish people would stop fascinating and drawing all their energy into that shit, because I feel that if you would drive that energy into something else more productive, I'm talking about like the Doomsday Clock shit, into something more productive, like I don't mean to sound philosophical here, but the world would be a much better place. I mean, you're not gonna stop the end of it. This shit will end, depending, like I said, depending on what you believe in. The way it's gonna end is completely up to your interpretation, and I'm gonna leave that at that. But just enjoy it while you can, and you never know. I mean, you, and I'm not saying you. I'm saying you in general. You may die before this shit ends anyway. So, I really, my main point is, I really think that we should stop thinking about that so much. I'm not saying throw it out your head completely, but I'm just saying, like, don't make it a
little bit of well-reasoned concern. You know what I
yeah,
mean? Just
exactly.
Be prepared both mentally and
Which is what leads me. It's crazy how you said it, and I'm gonna tie it into what I was gonna ask you. I was gonna kind of just ask you, man, and you can elaborate, and you don't have to go real deep into it if you don't want to. But I was thinking a lot, specifically today. Just a real simple question, but very vague. Like where do we go? Like from where we're at now, as not even as a country, bro. Because I've been watching the world and like the shit that's going around the world. You know what I'm saying? Like, what I was gonna ask you was, where do we go from here? Like I mean it on the smaller spectrum and on the larger one too. Meaning like one of the things
I'd say into the South China Sea with a full combat fleet. Or is that not what you?
No,
Okay,
definitely not.
Okay.
Trying to stay away from the negative, damn it. Just no, but what I'm saying is,
I was looking at the positive outcomes, of this, but hey, that's me. That's me.
What I was saying was like something that I went deep in thought, like for example, what as far as us as people and us as a country, because we really fucked up right now. But us as a country, like this is what I was thinking of. I started thinking of what survives and what doesn't after this shit. Like once we start climbing out of the shithole that we're in. So I'll give you an example so you can branch off of that. Like one thing that I thought of, the first thing that came to my head was mom and pop stores and restaurants. The one, because we all know that there was a lot of them that before this shit broke out, they were barely hanging on. So there's gonna be a lot of them that are not. Unfortunately, I don't mean to be negative and a bitch about it, but there's a lot of them that are not gonna, and there's some that already didn't make it out. So there's a lot of them that are not gonna make it out. There's a lot of restaurants, mom and pop stores that are gonna for sure go out of business and not gonna be able to recover.
All right, silver lining. There are going to be a lot of people after this who are no longer wasting their time in business that they're bad at.
Great point. So it was a lesson.
I hope. I mean, that's really like when I'm saying like
that's a great fucking point. Actually, I didn't think of that.
And that can sound cold blooded. I understand, but that's like the whole libertarian argument with the bank. It's like let the banks fail, let them fail. I just want to watch them burn. But there is something to the idea of we were like, don't get me wrong. We definitely have issues as far as even if we weren't under the pressure and stress of current factors, whether it be, social, health, economic, whatever, like just the way our system's set up does not allow for, how do I put it? You have to at least have some kind of competency to, you have to prove something to somebody. Either you can prove like, hey, I've got, sponsors, I've got some money from these people. Will you give me some money? And it's like, well, you're pretty good at getting money. So here's some more money. You got that. And then you got people that are like, I've got good product. And it's like, okay, here's some money, make your product. You know what I mean? Like getting the resources together requires at least, you have to convince somebody that you have some level of competency, unless you're a laundering drug money, which, as I've stated before, I have no problem with that. That money's got to get back into the economy somehow. And by God, small business is American as apple pie and Playboy.
Pretty much.
I'm sorry. I meant hustler. Playboy was full of perverts. Larry Flint was an honest man. Wait, is he still alive? Larry, if you're listening, love you, buddy.
No, I just think that,
I think we're the pressure that we're under right now. My optimism for the situation is that people are gonna have like just a little bit of like fucking stress to it. Where like I think about it, like we were talking about cars earlier. Like think about the whole scenario of like man, I love this car, but it's kind of a beat up, it's not all that good, but I really like this car. And then fucking, something that costs you a couple $1,000 breaks and you go, fuck it, I'll just get a new car. You know what I mean? I think that's where we're at, more or less. That's a bad analogy. I understand that, but that's the sentiment, at least, of like, well, fuck. We can't afford to keep doing the dumb shit we were already doing. Yeah. And hopefully,
but that's gonna, like, I hate to break it to you and to everybody else, but that's gonna continue. Like the dumb shit. We can hope that it can be like to a lesser amount. But
my optimism, by the way, is not for cessation of dumb shit. It's just for, let's say, a reevaluation and maybe a slight bit of modification. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like I'm just hoping that we do shit a little less stupid.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So, like, with me, I'm already stuck on the thought, because I think about history. Because this is not the first time that, as far as, like, what we're going through, yes, it's the first time that we're kind of going through something like this. But what I'm saying is, as far as, like, the economy collapsing, like, I look back at, like, history events, that have happened in the past, and I really do think that something that I can say positively of this country is that we've shown through different historical events that as Americans we're very resilient. So I'm like 98% sure that we're gonna, like, point blank period, we're gonna bounce back. However long it takes us to bounce back, that's a completely different story. All I'm saying is we will bounce back, and we will figure out a way to get out of the shithole that we've gotten ourselves into. Now, that's not my concern. My concern is more, can we figure out a way to, like, either prevent again something like this happening this big, or can we at least learn to spot it way further away so that we can handle it better, second time around.
Are you speaking like generally, or you mean like specifically like the pandemic?
Generally and specifically. Generally, because you have to understand that there's other shit in the world and other shit in this country that can basically make it collapse. So, which brings me to the other point that I was going to make. I hope that if there's one thing that this country learned from this shit, is that I hope they learned
wash your fucking hand. I'm sorry.
Just how fragile it really is. Because, look, man, and before I say this, because I get a lot of shit for the shit that I say. I'm proud to be an American. I love the country, hate the government. Two separate things. But this is an awesome country. I get it. But just because it's an awesome country, it's like my kid, man. I love my kid to death. But if they do something wrong, I'm gonna call him on that shit. You know, regardless. You know what I mean? So what I'm saying is, um, like this shit is fragile, man, and it can go away rather quickly and rather simple. You know what I'm saying?
I think I'm not necessarily disagreeing with you, man. I mean, I think the whole, like, look, if the sun has a, particularly bad burst of fucking radiation, it could wipe out half the fucking planet. You know what I'm saying? Or the whole planet. Fucking.
You don't even have to think about. You don't even have to go that far, man. If that volcano in where is it in?
But here's the thing, man. As like a.
If that, you know which one I'm talking about, right? Is it the one in Yosemite?
There's several, man.
No. There's one.
No. But here's the thing. And I just found this out a couple months back, man. There are like 3 or 4 of them that are that big. It just happens to be that one in particular is on schedule to erupt. That's what the whole, Yosemite or Yellowstone, I think.
Yellowstone, yeah.
Yeah. We've already gone 600,000 years or whatever it is between the last eruption. So it's on schedule to erupt again.
Yeah.
But there are several of those around the planet.
So that's what I'm saying. Like, it takes, like, if that shit's like erupts today, like we're gone. So
okay, but what I wanted to point out, man, is I think one aspect that I think is it's not being missed by everybody. It's just I think we may have had a conversation about this topic. Like everybody's kind of seeing their own little angle on this. And not willfully in a lot of cases, though willfully in a lot of cases. They're just going, they're cherry picking what they want to focus on and just going la, la, la. But a lot of the small businesses and all that shit, that wasn't like, oh my God, the terror from outside. That was the government shutting down the country. It was not, this wasn't, basically we sacrificed the virgins because the volcano burped a little bit. Like, yeah, maybe a few people might have gotten taken out in a pyroclastic flow, but for the most part, it seems like we'd have been all right. Like, I mean, look, man, you can argue, and I know we had the conversation about like, look, we're still waiting on the data as far as like a second wave of this shit, but for the most part.
Oh, by the way, the second wave. From the last article that I read, and I got this from, I don't know if it was the World Health Organization website. Might have been the Mayo Clinic. The second wave is projected to hit next week. So we'll see how next week turns out.
Look, I'm not going to go, stick my head in the sand or go out and start kissing random strangers, but
that's fun though. Sometimes.
Well, I'm just saying until we have the data, then, hey, don't be out on the street after 11 o'clock. I don't care what you're wearing.
Exactly.
Again, this is improv comedy. We are not being honest here about any of this. The rules don't matter and the points are made up. I've got that backwards. But my point being is there is definitely an aspect of this that I'm hoping one of the lessons isn't just, yes, existence is fragile. Life is a delicate flower.
I meant when I said fragile, I meant the country. I was focusing on the country.
Okay, but the flip side of that lesson should also be that, you have the delicate flower in your hand and yes, the wind could come and blow it away or, fucking whatever. But also, if you just squeeze it really hard, you kind of fuck it up. You know what I'm saying? And I think what we did was squeeze way too fucking hard.
Exactly.
It's like, somebody's going to take my flower. And it's like, no, man, your flower would have been fine.
But you fucked it up. Yeah. And that's kind of what I meant by going with the point of, like, where do we go? Like, where do we go from here? Like, that's kind of, I hope that we can at least start to move in a more positive direction. And again, I don't mean to sound corny, but that's only gonna happen if we start caring even a little bit more about each other. Like when we stop focusing on the petty shit, on the hey man, you're white, hey man, you're black, hey man, I make more money than you, that's why I deserve it. Hey man, but I'm entitled. Like when we stop focusing on that bullshit and really focus on like why we're here and what we're trying to do, I think that when we start moving like that in the masses in that direction, I really do think that we can make we can make a positive change. And the other thing, man, I'm not gonna go into that rabbit hole because I don't want to. I've had the same conversation too many times, but I'm trying to figure out how to say it without fucking opening the can. Let's just stop killing each other for no reason. Just
I agree. Murder should always have a purpose.
exactly like yeah, I mean that sounds fucked up, but it's kind of true in a way. You know what I'm saying? Like let's stop fucking like that's what I'm trying to say. Like we have so much other shit, like really bad shit going on, and we're investing our energy in like I'm gonna do this damage because I feel this way and what I feel is the most important fucking thing in the world, and you shouldn't feel this way. Like we like that shit. I really do feel that if that even diminishes a little bit more, things would be way different. And watch how I tie this back around to what I said 20 or 30 minutes ago. It goes back to, and they're listening to us.
I hope they're taking notes.
Yeah, my Google just fucking woke up. It goes back to.
That sounds like a dirty euphemism.
It goes back to.
Girl, you just woke up my personal assistant.
It goes back to the point that I said earlier, man. Like, when we start to focus on how can I benefit positively somebody else, and then if you have another person thinking the same way about you, just in a handful of people, you don't fucking need the world. In a small group of people, if you have the same trend going on, it makes a big difference. Not to sound preachy, but I take it back to my old days in going to the drug classes. Mm-hmm. There was some classes, man, where I can tell you I didn't give a shit. Back then when I was in the shit and trying to get out, I'll be honest with you, I didn't give a shit about those people. I didn't give a shit about their situation. I was just trying not to go back to jail. I'm just being completely fucking honest with you. But now, like, looking from the outside in, as they say, like, something that I do remember from some, not all of them, but from some of those fucking classes, is like, there was times that in the whole room, they were all like-minded people. So just in that small group, like that meeting, that one meeting, or that two meetings, for however long that like-mindedness stayed alike, like it made a huge fucking difference. So like that's all I'm saying. Like if going back to what I said, if you can get somebody else to feel the same way about you, it's like, hey man, what can I do for Sean? You know what I'm saying? Like that trickles down, and I really wish that all the big people that are outside and saying, how can I help the country and how can I do this and I want to do this, and I see that shit right now, especially right now, all over social media, and I want to do this, but like, how do I do it? I've always said it, man. Just start with the shit that you can control that's in your reach. Like if you can't reach somebody in Africa, if you can't reach somebody in another country, just start doing it with the people that you can do it with, the people that are within your reach, the people that are within your community. Shit, start with your fucking family. You don't have to go that fucking far, you know what I'm saying? And I guarantee you that small move, that small change is gonna trickle down. The same way that the negativity like spreads around, the same shit can happen with positivity. It's just that we tend to draw more attention to like the negative shit. You know what I mean? So,
I really think a lot of this stuff is going to break down to figuring out systems to motivate the behavior that we would like to see as a society in terms of.
And you know what's gonna help to change that? I really believe that it's gonna be accountability. You not you, but in general, everybody as a person.
Mm-hmm.
If we all start taking accountability for ourselves and the shit that we do, everybody from the smallest to the largest, meaning from the
Okay, I think you might. This is why I'm focusing more on the incentives rather than the accountability, because it's like, just as a, let's say, the general American culture. I mean, fuck breaking it down into all, whatever. But I mean, just like the general idea of, like, say, the American legal system is, it's punitive. Like, we don't, like, course correct with, like, incentives. Like, we course correct through, like, punishment, basically. Fees and fines and shit like that. Or, like, we talk about, like, right now, a lot of people are, for obvious reasons, talking about accountability and policing. It's like, okay, well, we've incentivized police forces in a way that it's in their best interest most of the time, or at least in a lot of these situations where shit's gone fucking completely haywire, and you got some guy that's been on the force for 15 years and has who knows how many complaints against him and possibly a few bodies and injuries along the way. Point being, there's no benefit to them directly as a police force, their fellow officers, the department, whatever, to punish. You know what I'm saying? Like, the way you go, okay, you want to hold them accountable. Well, you'd hold them accountable by punishing them. But there's no benefit to them to punish their own, because on the front end of that, they're not incentivized that way. Like the way their unions are set up, the way their relationship with, say, the county prosecutor or the state prosecutor or the city management, it's not set up in a way that is all right. Like, think of it this way: if there was a direct line of, okay, a cop fucked up in your department, you know what I mean? You're a cop, you're in a small town police department or a big city police department, doesn't matter. In your organization, if somebody fucks up in a way that is like don't get me wrong, if there's like, they're off duty and they go do something stupid, it's like, that's fucking on them, you know what I mean? But like, if they're on the job and they do something that is punishable, you know what I mean? How do I put it, man? There's like, all right, the whole thin blue line thing. Like, if you tell on me, well, fucking, I'm gonna get you back type of shit. You know what I mean? As opposed to being like, oh, you're out here doing dumbass shit. That's going to affect, my, livelihood or life in general. That isn't the forefront. The first thought is, fuck, how do I mitigate, the damage of putting myself into this situation? You know what I mean? And it's, I'm doing a bad job of explaining this, man. I didn't really think we were going to jump down into this, but
yeah, that's why I was trying to keep it very vague. I didn't want to go like what I said. Like, Now, what you're saying that's cool, but like
Yeah.
that's why I was trying to keep the thought very vague without going into much detail because I didn't want to get into it.
Well, I've been given, when you said accountability, I think that's what kind of kicked me off, because I've been given a lot of thought to, like, how do we hold ourselves accountable as a community? You know what I mean? Because more often than not, and again, this goes into the whole, well, if you're not going to involve me in the societal contract, then I owe you no debt type of thing. The whole, the police, instead of being like our police, you know what I mean? It's like the whole.
But do you understand why it doesn't feel like our police?
Because the contract's been broken. There is no. That's what I'm saying. There's no. Our societal contract. All right, like between you and me. Like if I was to spit on your floor right now, you'd be like, "Hey, man, wipe it up or get the fuck out of here." There's an understanding that on some level, even if you like you were like, I don't care. It's still like I don't care, but you're still being a dick. You know what I'm saying? Whereas that's not even recognized in our relationship with the police in a lot of cases. There are,
because like you said, it's been broken.
Right, but I don't think it's necessarily. Again, there are a lot of places where there is, say, corruption or a influential, biased interest, something or other. You know what I mean? The good old boy network, or the KKK runs the cops. Whatever it is, man. There's something outside or, say, present within the community that is affecting this function of the community. But I think for the most part, it's not even that. It's not like there's some nefarious force that's causing fucking chaos. It's just that our understanding of that relationship hasn't fucking matured any. We've actually gone more infantile, where it's like, well, you can't make the cop scared because, then he'll be scared and he could shoot you. It's like, why the fuck shouldn't he be scared? I'm an American citizen. I have a right to carry a gun around. You should be fucking afraid. That's hyperbole. My point being is there shouldn't be that I think we've relied on the imbalance of force for too long. That's what I'm saying about, like, we're a punitive culture. You know what I mean? It's like, well, if you fuck up, it's not like, well, if you act good, we'll give you a cookie. It's like, if you fuck up, we'll hit you with a stick. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, with the cookie analogy, it's like there's a direct line. If you go, hey, why didn't I get my cookie? It's like, well, because you didn't fucking do the thing. It's like, if you want more cookies, go do more things. You know what I'm saying? If you want the accolades of your peers, go fucking be good at what you're doing. If you want, fucking, I don't know, the gratefulness of, the needy masses, go be a fucking philanthropist. And I think, again, with the incentivization of the cops, man, it's, as people have pointed out, it's a stressful fucking job because there is that inherent, you're basically having to be the person who goes around to grown adults and slap them on the hand. Yeah. Which, if I don't know the last time you tried to slap a grown adult, they'll probably hit you back. You know what I mean? Like, even if they want to, you know what I mean? Like, there is that inherent thing that, like, it's almost like we're trying as a culture to, like, get it out of our system. Like, oh, well, that response of, like, you can't fucking tell me what to do. It's like, well, that's not being a good little boy or girl. It's like, no, that's being a human being. Like, don't get me wrong, you should have a controlling, sense of, like, okay, now is a time where my baser instincts in this situation should be repressed. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, okay, as if the contract was in place, the social contract, the legal contract. Yeah. If a cop pulls you over on the highway, you show him your ID, because we all agree that you have to have a license to drive on the highway. That's a complicated system involving taxes and, fucking liability purposes and all that shit. But that's kind of broken because a cop can basically because of the way our laws are set up, a cop can basically make some shit up and pull you over. So, you can find thousands of videos online of people just screaming at the cops while their cell phone camera is running, going like, what is the purpose of this stop? It's like, well, I'll tell you when I fill out the ticket. It's like, no. That's not the way that this fucking works. You don't, it's like the whole, that whole shitty parenting meme of like, you know, why? Because I told you to, or because I said so.
Yeah.
That doesn't work. That's a fucked up piece of logic for children, let alone for grown adults that you're hoping to actually be a society and have, you know, accountability and all of these things that we ideally are striving for. We're not set up currently in a way that motivates us to act that way. Yeah. I mean, don't be wrong. We have our better nature, and every once in a while somebody's in a position where they can, you know, be the beacon of charity and goodness and yada yada. But that a lot of times that's luck of the draw. You know what I mean? I don't know, man. I think people are really quick at the moment. Even I said earlier, you know what I mean? I do think a lot of the fallout we're feeling from the whole pandemic is because of the government's reaction. My first urge isn't to, you know, go shame my senator. I mean, don't get me wrong, my senator deserves a little bit of shame, but that's for various reasons. Yeah. Just as a human being, you know what I mean? Every once in a while, I should just kick their doors down and be like, shame! All right, I'll be back next week. But I think we should avoid the urge to like jump to punitive justice right now. Like, don't get me wrong. I think we should like actually be observing the contract. You know what I mean? Like, by the way, we closed out the last episode talking about that whole George Floyd incident. At that point, one of the cops had been arrested, been charged with third-degree murder. At this point, there's 4 cops being arrested. One of them's being charged with second-degree murder. The other 3 are being charged with accessory to a crime, yada, yada. And it seems like for the most part...
Is it true that the Asian one left the country? That might not be true, people. I'm confirming. Like, I heard that.
As far as I know, they're all in custody.
Oh, okay. Never mind. Never mind.
I did see something mentioned about one of them appearing to run, but if they've got him in custody, they got him somewhere. But it appears like for the most part, while it is not normal for the prosecution to be this quick, you know what I mean, for the charges to be filed and the process to be happening this fast, that's definitely a result of the public pressure, of the protests, of the riot, because Minneapolis is going through some motherfucking shit right now. They're talking about shutting down the entire police force. That should be interesting. Maybe not the best moment, folks.
Now they're saying reforming. They started saying shut down the whole police force, but now they're talking about like reforming the whole fucking...
At least one thing I was reading, there was somebody on the city council that was was backing the whole idea of just tearing down the police force and rebuilding from the bottom. But again, I don't think we should be going for the burn down the house. That's an analogy. I'm not making a direct reference to anything. I'm just saying, generally speaking, if you're inside of a building, don't light it on fire.
Yep.
Unless you've just got like some elaborate suicide scheme going on. And even in that case, make sure you own the building and nobody else is in danger. That's my 2 cents, but you do what you will. But it looks like for the most part, they're not.
If you survive, you might be able to write it off as a loss. Just saying. Maybe. But contact an accountant, lawyer before you do it.
That match lit itself, I tell you. Oh. But it looks like for the most part that they're being held to the standard of the law. Like it doesn't look like the attorney is on the one hand trying to slow roll and not charge them with shit, you know, give them lesser charges. But on the other hand, it doesn't look like they're going for too strong a charge. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's like, it looks like they're actually being forced to hold themselves to the contract. There's been a couple other situations off the top of my head. I couldn't name details, but there's been some stuff exactly the act of holding people to the contract as far as like, for example, like LA, they were having all out riots. There's been some crazy shit. But in the midst of all that, there was a concentrated effort with the protests to go down to the district attorney's office. And actually, they had a list of like cases where it was like, we're not just here to say no justice, no peace. We're like, we have specific instances of injustice. And you know what I mean? That there was like I said, a holding to the contract. Like there are terms to this shit that are not being followed. Yeah. And that's vague as hell. I understand. We've been pretty vague through this whole fucking thing for the most part, but we deal in generalities, goddammit. We are not specialists. So I have optimism, man. Like I see it's...
I do too, man, but I just, long story short, I want at least to see 1 or 2 steps movement in the right direction so that my optimism can grow at least a little bit. Because another side of me, like one side of me is like, yeah, we get it, like it's going, it's moving. But the other side of me is like, I feel like this is only going to happen for a little while. Mm-hmm. And then we're just going to forget about it. And some people are going to do this, move forward, and shit is going to continue the same. That's my biggest fear. Because I just think about, like, this is what I think about the most. And I know that you probably don't think about this as much for obvious reasons. But, like, if my kid was...
Yeah, I don't usually think about your kid.
My kid, I'm glad you don't. My kid, if my kid was 6 to 7 years old, because my kid now, at the age that my kid is now, she's very smart. So I know that by the time she's 6, if she was 6, 7 years old now, she would ask us a lot of questions. And number one, I refuse to tell her that this is okay in any way, shape, or form. But on the other hand, I'm not sure if I would be able to explain to her in a way that she could understand how we fix it. And if she would ask, well, why is it going on? What I'm saying is, without pointing the finger at the other guy, which we all know who the other guy is, I don't know how would I explain it to her in a way that she could comprehend. And that's what scares me the most. You know what I'm saying?
Just a thought off the top of the head, because I've been thinking, not as far as like talking to a kid, but just as far as talking to... Well, again, dealing for various reasons, I've had to have several conversations with friends and acquaintances. As a matter of fact, I could count you on that list, Freddy, about, people kind of dealing with the anxieties of what's going on. And like, you can see them, not so much with you, man. You seem to have just been kind of like focusing in and trying to work your shit through. But I came across several people that were kind of flailing a little bit, going like, what the fuck am I supposed to do?
Yeah. And I've seen that. And that's the scary part, because like, for example, like on the, that's why I was asking you, like, where do we go from here and who?
But what I was going to say was, man, the way I've been trying to approach those conversations has been, first of all, I mean, like, we know, like, if you have any goddamn sense whatsoever, you know that nobody's going to hand you an answer. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It feels good.
You kind of have to figure out as you go. We have to figure out as you go, but sometimes it doesn't feel like it's moving quick enough, which prompts people that don't know, some people, to ask more directly. It's like, what do we do? Like, you know what I'm saying?
Right, but I'm saying,
like I know people right now, still to this day, that are still thinking like, holy shit, like what are we gonna do? What's gonna happen if the country runs out of food? You know what I'm saying? Like, there's still, and I'm not saying you shouldn't worry about that, But I go back to what I said earlier. Don't put all your energy into it. Don't put all your energy into the problem, but put more energy into like, okay, how can we fix it if it doesn't? Because if you don't, you're gonna infatuate yourself with like, oh shit, no food, no food, no food. It's gonna run out,
Right.
and then that's gonna drive you into a rabbit hole. Going back to what I said earlier, if you're like a manic depressing person, you're that's enough to like drive you off the edge. You know what I'm saying? So we need, again, so what I said earlier, you need to try your best to learn to focus your thoughts in the most positive way at this moment that you possibly can. And if you've gotten anything from this episode that I've said and that you can remember and take with you, take at least this. Like, no matter what you're going through and how bad your mental situation can get, focus on how you can make it better by trying to focus on a possible, even if it's possible, not definite, but focus on even a possible solution that you can figure out for yourself. And if it does work for you, then there's a possibility that it may work for the person next to you, and it'll trickle down.
Okay, but this goes exactly to where I was getting with that point is like the best you can do with an adult, and I think definitely with, I mean, like kids are more willing to accept, like if you give them, why is the sky blue? Because light refraction. What's light refraction? Blah, blah, blah. You know what I mean? You can go down the endless rabbit hole of fucking, why? And I think very often, both with kids and with other people, we just want to go, I know what you're thinking. Let me explain this whole situation to you, and I'll tell you the solution. And it's like, even if that's not necessarily our intention, I think in a lot of ways, I find myself doing this. I'll throw out something like an idea of what I think I should be doing, but I almost present it in this way that is way more confident than it actually has evidence to be. Not like willfully, but almost in like I'm trying to convince myself by trying to convince you that this is a good idea.
Yeah.
Which is another reason you should take every statement made on this podcast with a grain of salt and probably a shot of tequila. And as far as with like kids, I think the best thing you can do is just like is keep them asking the questions. You know what I mean? Like, and I guess try not to like direct it. Like I said, I'm having these conversations with friends and stuff where it's like there's the temptation there to go like, well, I know your situation. Like, here, let me throw out some advice. Where instead, what I'm doing and finding a lot more positive response with is kind of walking through like, okay, where exactly is the frustration and the anxiety coming from? And not necessarily going like, what's bothering you? What's wrong? Just going like, okay, you're talking to me about, money. Okay, let's walk through the scenario and find the exact point at which you are either unsure or which you have jumped too far ahead and are making projections based on, pure speculation.
Yeah.
So I think that's where a lot of people get themselves in trouble is you go like, it's the what ifs, and it's like, okay, but if that South Park episode with the little gnomes, the underwear gnomes or whatever, where it's like, step 1, steal underwear, step 2, ? Step 3, profit.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of the time we're doing that, not exactly, but just kind of going, okay, here's what I'm doing, ? The future. And like, we have this idea of what the future is going to be without going like connecting the dots of like that's not just going to magically appear. Like if you have, all right, food shortage. Okay. Well, you go to the grocery store on a regular basis. Are you noticing less food there? Okay. Well, then maybe that should be the point where you go either A, I need to buy more food and stock up, or B, I need to actually look at the the reality of that food. You know what I mean? Like I talked to a lot of people who started doing a lot more shopping at like mom and pop meat markets because Walmart and HEB, you can't find any fucking decent cuts of beef. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If you're in there, you know, after 20 minutes after the fucking store opens, you know, it's a little bit rough. And I don't know if that's a supply issue. For example, like with the toilet paper, man, it wasn't that we didn't have toilet paper. It's that they couldn't get the damn toilet paper to the fucking, you know, to the store fast enough. So it's, and in a lot of cases, that's the problem we're having with beef. And in a lot of cases, it's genuine shortage of supply. So using that as like an analogy, man, like like what are we actually in this moment concerned with that might be a problem as opposed to what problem might we be facing? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
Because like, I mean, I think there is a benefit to like letting somebody just kind of like air their frustration and their like fear upon you. But like, you know, how do I put this, man? I guess it goes back to the therapy thing. It's like, you know what the pattern of your thought is. You know what I mean? You know what thought you're having. You know, I'm fucking worried. But like in the laying out of that concern to somebody else, like very often somebody else is, you know, it's like, dude, you're not worried about the apocalypse. You're worried about not paying your internet bill on time because, you know, that's a shitty example, but I'm saying like,
yeah, well, that's what I said earlier. We're focusing on shit that one maybe is not here yet, that's kind of fine, but the bigger problem is that we're focusing on shit that in a sense you can't control. You know what I'm saying? So it's a lot easier, and I've been preaching this for a long time, way before this episode, way before this started. You have to worry about the shit that's within your reach and what you can control. And I really strongly feel that if you start to do that, things will start moving in a positive direction by the domino effect. I feel that if you do it with the shit that you can reach and control, then the next person is going to get it from there and it'll trickle down that way. But we as human beings, we have an instinct. A lot of us, including myself, have an instinct of panicking first and instead of starting to think about the things that you can do, we start thinking about the shit off the top that we can control. And that's what I feel that brings up a lot of, not only does it bring up a lot of stress upon you, but that also takes, like I said, the focus away from the shit that you can actually control. And then you're stuck. You're stuck in a thing where you don't do anything because you're worried about the things that you can't control, and you think that that's it. You know what I mean? And that's what I'm trying to get people, again, going back all the way back to what we talked about at the beginning about the mental health. Like you got to focus on that first, and then the more you do, the better the thing next to it will get. But I feel it's a start that's simple that a lot of people are not paying attention to. So now, and I repeat this again. I've said this before, because I do know people right now that are still panicking on the food shortage. Mm-hmm. And the biggest reason why, if there's any food shortage at all, the biggest reason why that's happening is because there's a lot of fucking pricks that are taking more food than they actually need at one time.
Yeah.
If you stop doing that, I guarantee you there wouldn't be a food shortage. But again, that goes back to what you were saying earlier. It's our panic, our selfishness, and we're just thinking about ourselves before anything else. It's like I need to stock up because I need it. And it's like, okay, I already have enough here, but what if this finishes? So I need more. No, you don't. And I'll take that back. Yes, you do need more, but you don't need it right now. Give the other people a chance. The people that do need it right now, and that'll keep the chain moving. But fucking
Well, just as a, and this is not a for sure thing, but it is something I have been putting a lot of serious thought into lately. All of this, I think, might be the final bit of pressure, the final straw on the camel's back. That I think I'm gonna go out and get me the hunting license, get me some deer tags, man. I got a deep freezer in the house, man. That, like, don't get me wrong, there's food in there, but it's like, rather than, I like fresh meat, you know what I mean? I like having fucking meat in my freezer, and it only takes a couple times of, like, earlier today, man, I just went to Walmart. I was going to pick up a simple cut of fucking meat, and it wasn't there. And just like that fucking, don't get me wrong, I went through the process, the initial frustration, fuck it, I wanted a steak. And then, like, the thought was I could just go, over to this place, get a fucking, there's a meat shop right over there. I can go do that. And then the third thought was just like, yeah, I'm just going to go ahead and go get that fucking hunting license, bag me a goddamn deer, man, because I'm just sick and tired of, like, okay, how do we fix the actual problem, right? Not just how do I fix the problem now, how do I fix the problem in the future so that this is no longer a fucking problem? I'm tired of this shit. I don't think that's a perfect place to end it, but we are coming up on the end of the show here. Anything else you want to just briefly touch on?
no, just said I go back to what I said at the beginning. Take care of yourself. Take care of your mental health. You use it as time of reflection. Find yourself an outlet that is positive. Meaning, yes, I am saying it. Try your best to stay away from drugs and shit like that. And if that's your vice, that's fine. Just don't try not to kill yourself. So yeah, just and again, like I said the last episode, just don't be an asshole. Be nice to people, and I'm hoping by just making those minor adjustments, we can get to a better place rather quick.
All right. Let them know where you're at, man.
Y'all can still find me on Instagram just at the moment. Just hit me up on Instagram. Any questions, anything. I don't even want to put my services out there. It's like, you can hire me. I'm not gonna lie to you. I don't feel all the way comfortable yet to go out there like that. But hey, man, if your pockets are big enough, well, send me something, and we might be able to talk about it. Wear gloves when you do, please.
All estimates based on projected hospital costs. As always, if you want to get in touch with me, you can find me at hatfieldstandup@gmail.com, as well as Hatfield Standup on Facebook and Twitter. If you would like to listen to any audio episode of this podcast, you can go to shoutengine.com/bouncing brains. You can also find Bouncing Brains on Stitcher. You can listen. I've got to find out what the schedule is right now. I know it's all over the place, but you can find at some point in time during the day episodes of Bouncing Brains on rgvtitanradio.com. Go check them out, show them some love, give them support. A lot of great shows on there, and a lot of great local music from the Rio Grande Valley. There was something else I'm trying to remember. Oh, yes. If you're listening to the audio version and you'd like to watch video episodes of this podcast, you can go to YouTube, search Bouncing Brains. We should show up at the top of the list if you're searching on YouTube. Bouncing Brains. Again, Bouncing Brains. Fuck, there was something else. Now my mind is wandering to the future. I think I'm going to get a cheeseburger after this. No bun.
That sounds
So is it really a cheeseburger? I don't know, but I'll solve that problem when I get there.
it is a burger, to answer your question. I asked that question. And did you know that the burger is not made a burger by the bun? It's a burger because of the meat cut, because it's
Hamburger.
yeah, because it's ground beef. A, a ground beef patty is a burger, so the bun has nothing to do with it. I know, because I asked that same fucking question. I was like, if it doesn't have a bun, is it still a burger? And they were like, yes, stupid. The bun doesn't make it a burger. So technically, if you have the meat by itself in a plate, but it's a patty, you're still having a burger.
And if you wrap it in lettuce, you're a useless human being. By the way, if you'd like to reach out and get in touch with us and let us know your beliefs and opinions on any of these subjects.
Or on the burger.
bouncingbrainspodcast@gmail.com, as well as Bouncing Brains Podcast on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening.
It's been great. And until next time, keep it tight.